the government is a very big deal on the planet because it is the manager of the planet. The soul depends on a very good government to thrive. The well-being of the soul is very much influenced by the government. It's very difficult to find a good government on the planet. The science of government, the art of government, has not really been developed. What are the facts about a government? A government is a business. A government has revenues and expenses, and therefore it's a business. Okay, it takes in a certain amount of money, and it has expenses a certain amount of money, and therefore it's a business, and it has to be run like a business. And you need businessman type mentality to run a government properly and not put it into serious debt, and as well prevent any kind of thievery inside the government, which is certainly a problem. There is no financial policing inside the government. It's almost like the money goes up to the ivory tower of government and pennies come down out of it. There's a lot of favors, of thieveries, of contracts, of guilds. People who help a government to go to power get all kinds of favors, all kinds of contracts. A roll of toilet paper can cost $10 to the government. There's no policing of the revenues and the expenses the way, say, a bank runs. And it runs a very tight ship. Wealthy people, wealthy enterprises run a very tight ship. They know their expenses. There's a very serious accounting on their revenues and their expenses. And that doesn't happen inside a government. But the main subject here is that taxes is a lazy way to get government revenue. There are many, many ways that the government can make its revenue. It doesn't need taxes. Already many governments have a monopoly on alcohol, lotteries, gambling. There's government businesses, government enterprise. If government is a business, it can thrive in the business world. It can own banks. It doesn't have to borrow money from the bank. It can be the bank itself, right? It could run a credit card kind of business. All these big, huge companies making billions of dollars like Facebook and Amazon and Walmart and Costco. Why does the government not have these things? Why is it that private people can get wealthy, but governments can never get wealthy? Because private people run a tight ship and invest and grow in business. Government is stupid to business. It could have thousands of businesses, millions of businesses, right? And those businesses would be sufficient to eliminate slowly the need for taxation. I mean, how does an individual like Warren Buffett or Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos get wealthy? They work and they grow into billionaires. Well, why can't the government do the same thing? Why does it have to need, the taxes? Taxes is kind of the habit of kings like Henry VIII and Louis XIV, people who sit in an ivory tower and collect money from the farmers and the peasants who don't have $5 to their name. That's the way government is even today. The government is not smart to business. It doesn't know how to start a business, buy a business, grow a business, or even take over a business. That is, say, a criminal would lose his assets. Criminal enterprises or crime, or people who have stolen, who are guilty of crimes, are perfect targets for governments to acquire monies and businesses, which it can use to make further money and further profit for the government. There is no such psychology in the government. They don't know how to make money, and they don't know how to spend money. The spending is crazy. There is no policing on where the money's going. There's no red flag. There's no alerts about, special contracts to special people, special favors. Money's just disappeared from government coffers. The United States government is $22 trillion in debt. And all the governments in the world are usually in debt or close to debt. There's no sense that the government can make a profit and become very wealthy, so wealthy it doesn't need taxes anymore. Life on earth is very difficult. It's difficult to make money for individuals. It's difficult to make money for companies. There's a lot of hard work involved. There's a lot of sweat involved. People don't like to pay taxes. So why make them pay taxes when you can develop, a legacy of business inside the government? Russia has become capitalist. China is becoming capitalist. Cuba is becoming capitalist. Communism and keeping people poor doesn't work because every soul wants to thrive. Every soul wants to prosper. Every soul wants to have a good life, a pleasurable, comfortable life. Poverty doesn't work. What is ironic is that in the West, we live, right, capitalist government. Our government is into capitalism, right? But it isn't capitalist itself, which means it doesn't have businesses. Why is it that governments have no businesses? Or not enough businesses to basically eliminate taxes. That's not one of their goals. They just want to tax and tax and tax. And the taxes go up, and the poor don't like to pay the taxes. The rich don't like to pay the taxes. Well, the government can develop a branch of profit, of revenue making, right? Run by businessmen. But the problem is that businessmen don't get paid enough to get into government. See, somebody like Lee Iacocca or Donald Trump, who's able to make empires, of businesses, a tremendous amount of, somebody who can make $10 billion, $100 billion for you, doesn't want a salary of $400,000. They want millions. They want 10 million, 20 million, 30 million, and they want bonuses for performance. But that's fine. Government would make a profit hiring people like Lee Iacocca or Donald Trump's or business magnate, people who are very good at making money and making money for the government, and the government paying those people like Lee Iacocca or Donald Trump's, big money and big bonuses for making the government money. Big baseball players like Reggie Jackson, for example, used to bring 5,000 people more to a stadium when he went to that stadium. He was paid good money at the time, right? And therefore, he was worth the money they paid him. Sports stars get a lot of money because they make more money for the team. They win more championships. It's the same way that if a government wants its businesses to thrive, it has to hire the best businessmen that have to work for the government, not the worst. We don't want, people are going to lose money in a lemonade stand running a business. We need very smart businessmen who are tight and good on the expenses. They find the best deals to buy stuff, and they get the most money out of enterprises. These are the good businessmen. And those businessmen are hard to find. They're not easy to find, but you have to pay them in order for them to get into the government and make money for the government. This is a new way of making money for the government. Taxes have to be abolished completely. Eventually taxation has to disappear. There is enough potential for business of a government to eventually get rid of taxes altogether and make the government wealthy. Imagine, instead of being $22 trillion in debt, the United States could be $22 trillion in the positive as a profit. A good businessman knows how to make a deal. If a government needs a certain amount of computers or a certain amount of desks or a certain amount of buildings, businessmen can get the deals done. A bureaucrat cannot get the deal done and will pay 2 times, 3 times what they should pay. That's what makes good businessmen. They know how to get things done cheap and keep most of the money for their own enterprise. We need such people inside the government because the government is a business.